Hello, my name is Sharee Lawson, and I am physician owner of Family Medicine and Weight Loss. I have a family medicine clinic in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I see people of all ages starting at 0 up until about 100 years old. I take care of multiple chronic illnesses, healthy well visits, and I see patients who have diabetes, hypertension, asthma, kind of the gamut of health illnesses. I opened my practice in 2019, and as you know, COVID started in March of 2020. That was kind of a scary time for me because my practice had only been open a few months, and we had to go virtual. There was an emergency stay-at-home order. At that time, I was really afraid that I was gonna lose my practice, but you know, the grace of God is always there, and I survived that. However, the hospital that I have an affiliation with, Ascension, Wisconsin, asked physicians to step up and come to the hospital to take care of COVID patients because they had become inundated with COVID patients. There was what we call a surge of patients. That was in June of 2020. Being the person that I am, I wanted to help out. But the only thing we knew about COVID kind of at that time was what was happening in New York. People were dying. Physicians were getting COVID and dying. Nurses were getting COVID and dying. And so that was pretty scary. I felt the call to go help, but I also had to pause because I wasn't ready to die, and that's all I knew about COVID at that time. I did sit down and talk to my husband about it, and believe me, he was not crazy about the idea. He talked about putting me in a hotel so that I wouldn't bring COVID home, but he was really uncomfortable with the idea of me going into the hospital. Again, I had to reflect and pray on that. I am a Christian. I believe in God. It's so funny. I got a release regarding that when a friend called me one day, and she sent me a sermon, and it talked about not being fearful and, you know, putting on your armor and going out and doing what you have to do. And so my husband and I prayed about it, and eventually he got that release and he was comfortable with me going into the hospital. What did I see when I got there? People were dying. We really didn't know how to cure COVID at that time. People were cut off from family members. They were lonely. People were in the hospital for months at a time. That was a really sad time for me. You know, when you go into medicine, you want to help people. And so I couldn't help people, and that my hands were tied. And the only thing I could do was I prayed with them, held their hand, tried to visit with them because I knew they were lonely. Certainly we had medication and we gave that to them, but at that time, a lot of things weren't helping. Why vaccinate? So initially when vaccination came up, even though I saw what was happening firsthand with COVID, I was really nervous about getting vaccinated. I trained at Cook County Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, and one of the things they always taught us was never be the first one to take a medication or a vaccine that comes out. Just wait, let it be on the market a little longer before you start vaccinating. And that's how I've practiced with patients. I tell them, let's just hold off, and when we see that the vaccination is safe, then you can get vaccinated. But this was kind of a little different. We had not a lot of good treatments for COVID. When you have that hanging over your head, plus this new vaccine, it kind of tugs at what do you do? Probably after about 1 million people got vaccinated, I felt a little more comfortable. Again, I didn't jump on the bandwagon right away, but it was important that I knew I needed to vaccinate. One, I needed to protect my family because I was seeing patients who were really sick. Two, I needed to protect my patients because I was taking care of elderly patients. I can't just think about myself. Yes, I'm healthy. If I got COVID, possibly I would have survived, but I had to think about other people. I couldn't just think about myself. This is a pandemic, and it's a public health concern, not just about Dr. Lawson. On September 27th, I woke up. I felt horrible. Canceled my first 2 patients and went back to sleep. Woke up again, I had body aches, a fever, I had headaches. I knew I had COVID. I went and got tested and I was COVID positive. So I definitely think getting the booster is important. I talk to people all day long and they do think they are protected with 2 shots, and that's just not true. You do need that booster. Unfortunately, our bodies wane in immunity, and what that means is your immunity drops after 6 months. So you are no longer protected after 6 months. I am recommending the booster to everybody. How did I do with my COVID infection? I did well. I didn't have to get monoclonal antibodies. I took Tylenol. I took medications for my symptoms, and I did well. But I was one of the lucky ones. Not everybody does well. I think I did do well because I had had my 2 vaccines, but had I had my booster, I probably would not have gotten that infection. So it is really important that you get your booster. I am a proponent of everybody getting their booster.